And guys, it's been a big week already in the coaching carousel. The two of you are no stranger to the coaching side of this business, and you know how crazy it can be as soon as the regular season wraps, as soon as conference tournaments are done. All of a sudden, we've got some news to break. I saw it with my own eyes, guys. I was with Jeff Goodman at the Big Ten tournament last week, not to pull a name drop out of my hat, but I couldn't find this man for hours at a time because he's in the tunnels on like 6 cell phones at once. This is just what he does. So one of the biggest names this week, guys, is obviously Ed Cooley. Ed Cooley's team is preparing for a first-round matchup against John Calipari's Kentucky Wildcats. And yet all anybody wants to talk about with Ed Cooley is he going to take the Georgetown job? So, Laval, you've coached in the Big East. Obviously, you know Ed Cooley. What do you make of this situation? And I guess, where do you think Ed Cooley's head is at as he tries to balance preparing for such a tough opponent with all the rumors that are going on behind him?
Yeah, Ed's a good friend. His head is preparing for Kentucky, right, Matt? You know, so when you're like, that's what you're focused on because you have a team, you've gotten yourself in the field of 68. And so you are locked in on that. He has an agent that, you have somebody in the background handling anything else that might be. So he's trying to deflect any attention from anything else with his players, which is hard. Because that's all the media wants to talk about is, what about the opening? But he's locked in. When you get in that situation, you're locked in on trying to win the game, trying to advance, first round, second round, one at a time. That's where your focus is. It's why you have representation that can, help you not be distracted from the main thing, which is, nobody wants to call you about another job if you're not winning basketball games. So the focus is, winning basketball games. Now to be able to have to answer the questions all the time, I'm sure he wants to just say, hey, listen, I just answered it. And somebody else asks the same question. Like you get sick of that. You just want to talk about the game, talk about your players, the main thing. But so that becomes a distraction. Guys are on social media. It's hard to block out the noise for players and parents. And, you're just trying to keep your guys singular focused.
What do you tell your guys, Laval? Like if it in this situation, right? Obviously, everybody knows you're being courted by such a high profile place. Like how do you even have conversations with your players in that moment?
Or they think, right? Nobody thought about Damon Stoudemire going to Georgia Tech until it happened.
Yeah.
So everybody thinks they know, right?
No question.
But you don't actually know. But the speculation is what gets you. So you're telling them, hey guys, just stay mission focused. And block out all noise. I'll handle all of the noise. You don't worry about it. We got a job to do, and you're just preaching that over and over and again to get guys to stay focused on the mission.
Okay, McCall, what's the pressure like in a week like this? Because I think we're seeing it play out with a bunch of different coaches right now, both the good side and the bad side of the pressure for March. Right, like there's guys coaching for their jobs this week. And then there's guys that are coaching for new jobs this week. What does it feel like to go through that?
Well, I hope if you're in the field of 68, you're not coaching for your job. I mean,
exactly.
Like if you make it to this point and you're in the tournament and you're in the field, you're not coaching for your job. You would think, I know certain jobs are shark tanks and, expectations and all things like that. Even going back to Coach Cooley, I think social media is throwing a completely different wrench in this whole deal. And I remember back in 2007 when Kentucky was open and we were trying to go back to back, and everyone thought that Coach Donovan was going to go to Kentucky. He was going to leave Florida and go to Kentucky. And, Noah, Horford, Brewer, Torian Green, all those guys came back after winning a national championship in 2006. But because there was no social media, it really wasn't that big of a deal. And I think there was one press conference where it was asked and it was addressed, and who knows if those guys even heard it back then. And now it's just a completely different animal because it's all those guys are seeing. So I can't imagine the distractions that Coach Cooley's having to deal with in terms of that. How he's handling it with his team, you never know. If he's not going, then he tells his team he's not going, and I'm committed here to staying here and being with you guys and staying at Providence. But If there's a piece of him that feels like that's a better opportunity for him and his family at this point in time in his career with everything that he's done at Providence, that's a different story. You want to be real. You want to be authentic. You don't want to lie to your players either. So I can't even imagine. I don't envy the position that he's in. But in terms of coaches that need wins in terms of the NCAA tournament, man, if you're in the field, you don't need a win. You're focused on trying to advance. No question. I think, and even the I'm sure like a Bob Ritchie, right? Like, coaches like that made the field. I mean, I dealt with it at Chattanooga. We had 29 wins going into the NCAA tournament. We had a veteran team, but those guys are so excited about being in the field. They're not worried about their coach leaving. Not at that point in time. They may be worried when the clock hits 0, but they're not worried about their coach leaving right now. They're worried about how can we advance in this tournament because it's the best sporting event in the world, and they're so excited to be there. And there's so much excitement created around your team and on campus. Nobody's worried about their coach leaving in terms of that. So I think that's something that you got to keep in perspective as well. Once you make the field, especially at a mid-major or low-major level, nobody's worried about their coach leaving because they're just too excited about being there.
It makes sense.
Like Mike, I know Mike Shrews really well. It's like Penn State's in the NCAA tournament. That's all he's thinking about.
That's it.
And, everyone else is talking about all the other stuff. He just got Penn State back to the dance, and they can win a game. They got a chance to. So there's nothing else on his mind. Now, again, you got people that represent you that can take a phone call and keep tabs on anything else later, but you're not worried about that stuff right now. Shoot, if you can get in there with the Nittany Lions and get a win or two.
And that's a great point too in terms of Providence, right? I mean, they're playing Kentucky in the NCAA tournament. So like you can think that those players are distracted about Coach Cooley going to Georgetown. I mean, they got BBN, right? So I don't think that they're focused on that. But I think with social media,
and they've lost their last 3.
They
just want to pick themselves up off the mat.
That's it. So
yeah, you mentioned it, Laval, but I would hope, and I think it's true. I saw it again in person at the Big Ten tournament. This Penn State team's pretty locked in. Obviously, there's rumors, but I think Shrew's biggest focus right now, as is the team's, is booty ball. That's what they're doing. It's booty ball in the Big Ten. And you can get the shirt, by the way, field68.shop. Get your booty ball merch. All right, a couple minutes left in this segment. I'm just going to ask it point blank, Laval, and you let me know what you think. What's Ed Cooley going to do here? I mean, is this one where he jumps? Spot. I'm putting you on the spot. I want the answer. Listen, Laval can duck it. Laval and I've put him on the spot enough this year. He's more than welcome to duck this question.
You like doing this, Greg. I do. You like this game. Game. Hey, by the way, I had to deal with a ton of Indiana fans on Contender Pretender. So I appreciate you, throwing it out there and forcing.
I'm sorry.
But it's okay. It's okay. We've made up now. You know what? I think I don't think any coach is unwilling to listen to the right, because like Matt said, you get to a point with your family and things change with your family dynamic and all that. I think it's hard to go in conference, with what Ed's built up. Obviously, he's at home. He's from Providence. Sometimes being at home isn't everything you make it out to be. And so people got to realize that plays into it too. But, and Ed's, when you think about the situations, like there's been a change in leadership over his time there. The AD that was there, president, new AD in the last few years. Not saying that he would make the decision to go or not, but things change as time goes on. So I don't know, and I don't know how serious it is. It might be another Damon Stoudemire that pops up and gets the job that nobody even talked about and speculated, right? And it's like, whoa, where'd that come from? So right now it's just blocking out the distractions, and you're assuming everybody's making these assumptions. So you're not going to get me with that one, Greg.
I had to, I had to shoot my shot, right? Role players got to shoot. You kicked to me in the corner. I better take that open jumper. All right. Well, McCall, you're not going to get out of this easy either. I had to put Laval on the spot with one hard one. Let's put you on the spot with one hard one. Which job is a quote unquote better job? Define better however you want to define it. Georgetown or Providence?
Ooh. I mean, I think at this point in time, I think you've got to look at NIL. What schools willing to do more with name, image, and likeness. I think the Providence fan base. I mean, I know it's not called the Dunk anymore, but you see those home games, and Coach Jordan knows this. That place is absolutely rocking. Georgetown doesn't have that, and maybe it's because they haven't, had the success over the last several years that they had. Even going back to the mid 2000s when they were going to the Final Four with Rory Hibbert and those guys. I'll
say this though, Matt. A lot of that is Ed, man. He's tremendous.
Unbelievable.
On campus marketing with the
unbelievable.
Like a lot of that's Uncle Ed.
Exactly. So I think Providence just because of Coach Cooley, but if he decides that it's the best situation for him to head to Georgetown, then I may change my mind. I may change my mind. But man, I mean that's tough. The tradition, the history of Georgetown, Washington D.C. Man, that's a tough one to pick. I don't know. Coach Jordan was in the league. Why don't you put him on the spot with that one?
We'll see if Laval wants it. How about that? We'll get the ball back in his hands.
You have with Georgetown, if you can do it, you've got a built-in recruiting base right there.
Yeah, right there.
And, now that, being able to keep guys home and all that, sometimes guys don't want to stay. You have obviously the tradition and all. Right now, it's not where, we know of Georgetown when we were growing up, Matt, but it's still Georgetown, on a lot of levels. So if you get the right person in there, Lee Reed, I know their athletic director. I know Lee well, and what he's about. The NIL piece, I'm not educated on because I think that's a big factor nowadays. So I don't know about that part, but traditionally you would say Georgetown is just where they've been in the last 8 years. Yeah, obviously Ed's got that thing going at Providence.
Yeah, it's a name that carries some weight clearly with Georgetown, but another name that carries some weight at this point is Ed Cooley. Like you guys alluded to, he's done such a good job at Providence, especially in the last couple of seasons. This is not the first offseason we have heard his name associated with some big name jobs. It is not the last time that's going to happen either. If he stays at Providence, he's probably going to be back in the rumor cycle for a lot of off seasons to come. It's just how the game works. When you continue to win at the level that he has won in the Big East in a couple seasons running at this point, it's going to happen. So, all right. Thank you guys for your candid answers. I appreciate that. That was very enlightening.
Hey guys, just a reminder, our sponsor for today's episode is Run Your Pool. They are hosting the Field of 68 Bracket Challenge. This year, they are giving away $1,500 in free prizes. It's all an incentive for you to get on there and find out just how good their platform is. I've been using them for my bracket pools for years. I've used them for Super Bowl squares. I use them for everything that I need to use them for. The biggest survivor pool that I'm in for both NFL and NCAA tournament is by Run Your Pool. So go check them out. The link's below. Tap in.